Welcome to Win the Day from Back to the Bible. I'm your coach, Pastor Nat, and today we will discover why Jesus is the bread and the light. The book of John contains 7 I am statements. These statements bring clarity to who Jesus is, but often these statements can cause confusion for some and clarity for others. Well, over the next 6 days, we will go over these 7 statements to understand God in the flesh. He is the great I am. There is no one like God. There is no one, and no one will ever be like Jesus. So today, we're going to look at 2 I am statements. Jesus will say, I am the bread of life and the light of the world. Here's what Jesus said in John chapter 6, beginning in verse 35. Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Was Jesus crazy? Was he being literal? Well, no, he wasn't being literal. He is not saying that he is a real source of food. But what he was saying was that I am what you fuel your soul with. This is what your soul hungers for. It's in me you find spiritual fulfillment and that permanent spiritual nourishment. But you see, here's the problem, friend. Many of us settle for substitute spiritual bread. We look for that spiritual gluten-free bread when Jesus says everything else is a substitute. Everything else leaves you hungry and malnourished. I am truly what your soul has always longed for. He is the bread of life. And then Jesus makes another I am statement in John chapter 8, verse 12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, You are bearing witness about yourself. Your testimony is not true. Jesus answered, Even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I came from and where I am going. But you do not know where I come from or where I am going. Jesus tells the religious leaders, I am the light of the world. Here Jesus is making a clear statement about being God. His statement was fitting and reflective of where they were at the temple. The light of the 4 candelabras was seen throughout the area. It was like a spotlight. Well, the Pharisees want no part of it. They say, You are telling us about yourself, and you are a liar. But Jesus has the right response in verse 14. Jesus says, Even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I come from and where I am going. But you do not know where I come from or where I am going. Jesus has been very clear that he is the way to God the Father. Jesus is God in the flesh. If you want to know the way to heaven, you have to listen to Jesus. He created heaven. He created the universe. He came from heaven to earth. Simply put, he knows the way. Jesus reminds us that truth is objective. It's not relative. It's not subjective. Truth is true regardless if a fact checker denies it. Truth is regardless, even if a politician, a pastor, a teacher, a family member, a judge, or anyone else says otherwise. Jesus is truth. He is light. He knows the way. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. The problem lies in us. When a person rejects Jesus, it's not because Jesus isn't enough. It's not because Jesus hasn't given enough evidence. It's because sinners love the darkness. They love sin. Jesus offers freedom from that sin. He strips them of the sin and freedom from living in it. He removes us from the darkness and places us in the safety of the light. So here's my challenge for you today. Daily eat the bread of life, and doing so, live in the light. Too many of us ignore the spiritual fueling God's Word provides us. But we know that if you engage in God's Word 4 or more times per week, you will see life transformation. You will move closer to God. You will live more in the light. You will avoid the darkness and bring light to the world around you. Jesus said, "I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world." There are no substitutes for Jesus. Why would we ever settle for anything less?